A cockatrice is a mythical beast, essentially a two-legged dragon, wyvern, or serpent-like creature with a rooster's head. Described by Lawrence Briner as an ornament in the drama and poetry of the Elizabethans, it was featured prominently in English thought and myth for centuries. Origins. Edit. The cockatrice was first mentioned in the 1611 King James translation of the Bible in Isaiah chapters 11, 14, and 59, however, the majority of commentaries believe what the KJV calls cockatrices are actually an adder or a serpent known as a basilisk. Essentially, biblical versions vary in how they translate the Hebrew word psepha. It is described in its current form in the late 14th century. Citation needed. The Oxford English Dictionary gives a derivation from Old French cockatrice, from medieval Latin calcatrix, a translation of the Greek ichneumon, meaning tracker. The 12th century legend was based on a reference in Pliny's Natural History 1 that the ichneumon lay in wait for the crocodile to open its jaws for the trochilus bird to enter and pick its teeth clean. 2. An extended description of the cockatrice by the 15th century Spanish traveler in Egypt, Pedro Tafur, makes it clear that this refers to the Nile crocodile. 3. According to Alexander Nexum's De Naturis Rerum, ca. 1180, the basilisk, Basiliscus, was the product of an egg laid by a rooster and incubated by a toad. A snake might be substituted in retellings. Cockatrice became seen as synonymous with basilisk when the Basiliscus in Bartholomew's Anglicus's De Proprietatibus Rerum, ca. 1260, was translated by John Trevisa as cockatrice, 1397. 4. This legend has a possible Egyptian folk root. The eggs of the ibis were regularly destroyed for fear that the venom of the snakes they consumed would cause a hybrid snakebird to hatch. 5. It is thought that a cock egg would hatch out as a cockatrice, and this could be prevented by tossing the egg over the family house, landing on the other side of the house, without allowing the egg to hit the house. The cockatrice has the reputed ability to kill people by either looking at them, the death-darting eye of cockatrice 6, touching them, or sometimes breathing on them. It was repeated in the late medieval bestiaries that the weasel is the only animal that is immune to the glance of a cockatrice. 7. It was also thought that a cockatrice would die instantly upon hearing a rooster crow. 8. And according to legend, having a cockatrice look at itself in a mirror is one of the few surefire ways to kill it. The first use of the word in English was in John Wycliffe's 1382 translation of the Bible. 10. To translate different Hebrew words. 11. This usage was followed by the King James Version, the word being used several times. 12. The Revised Version, following the tradition established by Jerome's Vulgate Basiliscus, renders the word as basilisk, and the New International Version translates it as viper. In Proverbs 23:32 the similar Hebrew tsephe is rendered adder, both in the Authorized Version and the Revised Version. Behold! And see, that which sprung from the egg of a cock, hatched by the deaf adder. The glance of its eye sufficeth to turn to stone any living thing that standeth before it. Were I but for one instant to loose my spells whereby I hold it in subjection, in that moment would end my life days and thine. Therewith came forth that offspring of perdition from its hole, strutting erect on its 2 legs that were the legs of a cock, and a cock's head it had, with rosy comb and wattles, but the face of it like no fowl's face of middle earth, but rather a gorgon's out of hell. Black shining feathers grew on its neck, but the body of it was the body of a dragon with scales that glittered in the rays of the candles, and a scaly crest stood on its back, and its wings were like bats' wings, and its tail the tail of an aspic with a sting in the end thereof, and from its beak its forked tongue flickered venomously. And the stature of the thing was a little above a cubit. 16. A cockatrice is mentioned in Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, 2000, by Hermione Granger in Chapter 15. A cockatrice involved in one of the tasks of the 1792 Triwizard Tournament escaped and injured the headmasters of the 3 participating schools, an incident cited as the cause for the cancellation of Triwizard tournaments until 1994. Some translations instead state the cockatrice to be a basilisk. Note 1 or an Occamy, Note 2 an in-universe relative of the snallygaster. 17. Additionally, heraldry of a white cockatrice holding a broomstick on a blue and beige background is shown to be the emblem of the French national Quidditch team in the 2003 video game Harry Potter, Quidditch World Cup. 18. In the video game Butai, The Sun is in Your Hand, 2003, cockatrices are among the enemies the player face in Soul City. 19. In the animated series My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, 2010 to 2019, a cockatrice is stated to live in the Everfree Forest. In the 2011 episode Stairmaster, the cockatrice turns Twilight Sparkle and one of Fluttershy's chickens, Eliza Beak, to stone using its gaze, but reverts them back after being intimidated by Fluttershy's own stare. 20. On the SCP Foundation Collaborative Writing Project, cockatrices are shown in the story SCP-1013, Cockatrice, 2011. An SCP-1013 instead paralyzes its prey by staring at them, only turning their skin to stone upon biting them, after which it will peck through the calcified skin to eat their prey's fleshy innards. SCP-1013 reproduce from growths budding off of the tail of a well-fed adult. 21. The story SCP-1013, Cockatrice won 4th place in the site's SCP-1000 contest, a contest that prefaced the opening of the site's second series. 22. A cockatrice is shown as the main antagonist in the first episode of Netflix's anime adaptation of Little Witch Academia, 2017, Starting Over. 23. The cockatrice is also a dungeon boss in the Underground Labyrinth gameplay section of Little Witch Academia, Chamber of Time, 2017, a video game for PC and PS4. Arthur Fox Davies describes the cockatrice as comparatively rare in heraldry, and as closely resembling a wyvern outside of possessing a rooster's head rather than a dragon's. The cockatrice, like the rooster, is often depicted with its comb, wattles, and beak being of a different color from the rest of its body. The cockatrice is sometimes referred to as a basilisk, but Fox Davies distinguishes the two on the basis of the heraldic basilisk possessing a tail ending in a dragon's head, although he does not know of any arms depicting such a creature. 25. In continental European heraldic systems, cockatrices may be simply referred to as dragons instead. 26. The cockatrice was the heraldic beast of the Langleys of Agecroft Hall in Lancashire, England as far back as the 14th century. 27. It is also the symbol of 3, Fighter, Squadron, a fighter squadron of the Royal Air Force. It is also represented on the coat of arms of Bornholm, a Danish island in the Baltic Sea, and is related to the liberation of the island in 1658.